What's happening, party people? I got two specific questions for you as we are in the final hours before the election of 2024 comes to a conclusion and we'll know who the next president is. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to, number one, if you are eligible to vote, I encourage you to do so. Now, I have a slightly different come from when it comes to voting because there was a time not very long ago where people who look like me and have this skin color were not allowed to vote. We were literally hung from trees if we were pursuing our right to vote, to determine outcomes in political elections. So, because my ancestry comes from a lineage where that right was literally died for, many lives were sacrificed so that I could have that right. It's never been even a doubt. I've always voted since I've been eligible to vote. So my come from is probably a little bit different than some of yours. But that being said, I think it's important for everyone that has the legal right to vote to do so. So I encourage you to do that, but also to encourage others in your circle to vote as well. It's very, very important that you have your voice be heard. Now, that being said, here are my two core questions. Number one, who do you want to be? And number two, what do you stand for? And again, I look at situations like this as opportunities for each of us to express that with clarity and succinctness, because people need guidance, and leadership is an opportunity to be an example and lift others up with that leadership. So a couple of things I want to talk about. Number one, when you ask yourself that question, who do I want to be? What type of human being do you want to show up as? Maybe you have your own political aspirations. Maybe you are an entrepreneur and you want to be a successful business owner and business leader. Perhaps you have incredible standing in your career, in your profession. You're a teacher, you're a firefighter, you're a scientist, you're an engineer, you're an accountant. So who do I want to be as I show up and represent myself in this particular professional lane? Who do you want to be as a father or mother to your children, as a husband or wife to your spouse, as a presence in your neighborhood and your local communities? Who do you want to be when it comes to your spiritual walk, when it comes to your health and your fitness? These are all very important questions that when you give them the proper time and consideration, you realize the creative power that you have. And you're not a tree. You can change. A lion is a lion, a dog is a dog, a cat is a cat. But we as human beings have the capacity to edit our life script, edit our life stories, and we can take some stuff out and put some things in. And what do you stand for? So I'm for people who strive to live a life of integrity. It doesn't mean that they're 100% integrous. It just means that the majority of the time, if they say they're going to do something, they do it. The majority of the time, if they're sharing some information, you can fact check that and there's going to be alignment the majority of the time. So that's what I respond to. That's what I stand for. That is what I exemplify. I look at people when it comes to competition. So I'm in business, so I'm an entrepreneur. So my come from, again, is going to maybe a little bit different than yours. I don't look at the government as an institution or entity that's supposed to give me things, that's supposed to make my life, quote unquote, better and make sure that I can have all these things so that I can lead a successful life. I don't blame the government for my current situation because that's not how entrepreneurs think. This is not how leaders think. So again, I know I may be different, have a different come from. It's not a right or wrong thing. I just want you to know my come from. So when I hear people talking about, what's this person going to do for me? They're going to, what are they going to do? Put in my pocket, blah, blah, blah. I just don't, I don't relate to that come from. And so what I'm looking at is how do you show up in your life? How do you show up as a family person, as a spouse? How do you show up when no one is supposed to be listening or watching or looking? It tells me a lot. What kind of character do you have? What do the people who have been closest to you in critical situations, what do they say about you? How do they share their experiences? Because they know more than I would ever know, because I'm not in those circles to be that close to you if you're vying for my vote to be a leader, okay? So I look at all of those things because they're very, very important. I don't buy into, and I don't like it when people who want to be in the realm of competition come into the realm of competition already making excuses. I've never seen or heard that. That's not my language at all. Like, can you imagine the New York Yankees saying, hey, listen, we still have a chance to win the World Series if the umpires have the courage to do the right thing and to take action. In other words, they got to come out and say, hey, we were all wrong. Actually, the LA Dodgers didn't, whoop the behinds of the New York Yankees. We made wrong calls and we did all the, like, it's ridiculous. I know you're laughing. It's ridiculous, right? It's the silliest thing ever. So I don't relate when people come into the field of competition and they espouse a philosophy of, well, if I don't win, it's only because everything is rigged against me. The entire world is against me. It's paranoia, it's delusional, and it's silly. It's just silly. Like nobody talks like that. When my kids are competing in sports, we teach them, as you teach your kids, I'm sure, to compete. And you're not always going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. And it's in the loss where you get the lesson. It's the win that is the blessing. So mature, emotionally mature individuals, and all of my fellow entrepreneurs and leaders, you all know this, we get into the field to compete. And the reason we love it so much is because it's an equal playing field. Nobody cares if you're black, white, young, old, 18 to 80, bald, crippled, or crazy. They just want to know, can you compete and produce? And the scoreboard are the numbers. The numbers tell you the story. Now, you and I don't look at the numbers and say, well, my business only netted 20% growth this month. Therefore, the entire marketplace is rigged against me. Therefore, all of these people that could have been my customers, they've been told lies and rigged against me. So therefore, I can't compete. And actually, my business is really up 40% instead of 20% because I say so. Like, we would never do that because we're not delusional human beings. We're leaders, we're entrepreneurs. You all know this, okay? So that's why my come from might be a little bit different if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not someone that is in a position of leadership. But I wanted to share it with you so that you seize the opportunity when you're asking and answering the question, who do I want to be and what do I stand for? I stand for consensus and finding common ground. I work with all types of different people, different religious walks, different spiritual walks, different races, different sexes, different political ideologies. I work with all kinds of people. My job is to find common ground. Even though we may disagree on certain core issues, we still find a way to get work done because we're running a business. So we have to figure it out to work together. I don't name call them. I don't castigate them. I don't say that they're the enemy within. I don't put them in harm's way. So I don't do those things. So I don't relate when someone goes out of their way to denigrate an entire group of people with false information. Like I don't understand that. Like I don't relate to it. It's just weird. It's just very, very strange for someone to put an entire community of Haitians who are here legally and accuse them of doing the most ridiculous, ludicrous things. And then that entire community is now under attack because these things are false. It's not true. The kids, these people, their families, they have children. The children have been taken out of school multiple times. Schools have been shut down because they've been under bomb threats, because they've been attacked falsely, because they have a different hue of skin and they're immigrants that are here legally. And everybody knows, you all know this, our country was built on immigrants from Italians and Irish and Polish and on and on and on. The only people that were native were the Native Americans. And the only people that are not immigrants are us. People that look like me, black folk, because we didn't obviously come here by choice. We were forced here in chains. So those two groups aside, Native Americans and black folk, everybody else came here as an immigrant. That's number one. Number two, when I'm looking at and I'm answering that question, who do I want to be? What do I stand for? I stand for love over hate. I stand for finding ways to bring people together instead of being divisive and tearing people apart. Because I know, and my entrepreneurs and leaders will know this, you can get a lot done with toxicity, negativity, and hate and anger. You can get a lot done. If people are so busy being divisive and attacking each other, and you're a leader, you can take advantage of that, and you can walk away with the entire bank and nobody will notice because they're all too busy tearing each other down, because that's the tone that you've set. Okay, so that's a strategy. I get it, right? Don't agree with it at all. Don't understand how people would think like that, but that's just what it is. So I look at these things and certain behaviors that people exhibit. I'm not a misogynist. I don't believe in denigrating women and being abusive towards women. I've been in locker rooms most of my developmental years as an athlete who played in many competitive sports. Never in my life have I ever heard anybody, and so it's interesting because I was actually an athlete. But I've never heard someone who's never been an athlete talk about locker room talk, but they've never spent time in a locker room. How would you know that? Like, these are just common sense things. I've never heard anybody in a locker room talk that way about women. I'm not saying that maybe it hasn't happened. I just never heard. I've been in a lot of locker rooms all the way up through college athletics and never heard it. Never heard. I'm sure you would probably agree. Like, most men don't denigrate women. It's not. Are men, idiots? Of course we're idiots. Can we do dumb things when it comes to women? Of course we do dumb things. But in my experience, the majority of men that I've encountered, they're pretty good men. Like, are there some pigs? Of course there's some pigs, of course. But those are the people that sexually assault women. Those are the people that grab them by the you-know-what and brag about it. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about good men. That's all the men that I know who know me and are watching this, they're good men. They would never speak like that about women. They would never denigrate women like that. Well, see, I take that into consideration when I'm evaluating the type of leader that I would give my support to, right? Who do you want to be? What do you stand for? I stand for lifting women up. I stand for honoring women. I stand for recognizing that women are the mothers of civilization. We all come from a woman. We know this, right? So it's an opportunity for all of us to look at these things and evaluate these things. If you lose, you have to know how to take the L. I judge, and when I look at, watch this, press conferences, and I'm looking at after an athletic event, I always look at the person who lost and how they handle it. I learn more from Tom Brady in the Super Bowls that he lost than the ones that he won. I learn more from a fighter from the fight that he lost and how he responds and what he says and how he reacts. So if somebody loses and they completely dismiss, they're dismissive of tens of millions of people that voted against them as if they don't matter. That tells me a lot about that person. If someone loses and they make up this thing, it was rigged. Oh, okay. Show me some proof. And they have literally, listen to this, they have billions of dollars at their disposal. And they have 4+ years to create some level of proof. And they have a big fat donut hole, a zero Nothing, no proof, nothing. And 60 court cases, 59 of the 60 where they lost, the one that they won, it was something, it wasn't proof of the massive fraud, right? Because think about it from just again, I'm talking to my entrepreneurs and leaders, this might come from, common sense is important. I know common sense ain't common. I know you guys are going to say that, but bear with me because you all have common sense. Like really, there's a coordinated effort between all of the election workers in all 50 states. They're all in cahoots against one person. Does any one person really warrant that? Is any one person that talented, that brilliant? Yeah, no. Unless your name is Jesus. Now, I know there's idolatry. I know that some people think other people are Jesus. Like, I get that. I'm not talking about that. That's a whole nother conversation. So, I mean, it's just silly. It's just silly. But again, if you take an L, okay, but if you get the L, but you refuse to take it, you refuse to learn from it, you refuse to grow from it, and you live in a delusional world of denial forever, and you never, ever, never, listen to this, never offer not one iota of definitive proof, and then stand up in a court of law. Because that's the best place to do it, right? Court of law, that's where stuff gets litigated. That's where you can't just say anything. You have to actually have proof of what you're saying. So I'm going to go to the proving ground. You ever, hear somebody say, listen, man, if somebody accused me of doing X, Y, and Z, I would never concede that I was guilty if I knew I was innocent. Because you're innocent and you're like, I'm going to a court of law. You're like, prove it, let's go, prove it. I know a lot of people like that feel that way. Now, again, I'm not talking about the disenfranchised. I'm not talking about people who are impoverished, because people that are not educated and poor are the ones that are victimized the most by the legal system. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. So they get taken advantage of because they don't know. There's a lot of things they don't know. I've worked with the Innocence Project. I worked on a project where there were individuals wrongfully convicted, sentenced to death row, and given that sentence and their convictions were overturned after 10, 15, 20, 24 years in some instances because of DNA evidence. But all of those people had the exact same characteristics. They were poor, they were not educated, and they were easily taken advantage of by some of the corrupt actors in a entire system, right? So I look at all these things, ladies and gentlemen, and it gives me, again, an opportunity to evaluate what's happening in our body politic. It's a great lesson, if you will. It's a great class on human behavior, human emotion. You're able to see and watch how people are swayed. I've had so many conversations because I've been on the ground. I've been in the streets. I've been talking to people in various neighborhoods and having face-to-face conversations, not on social media, not with trolls. It's easy to put up a silly post and just say dumb things on social media. Don't go to social media to litigate your political viewpoint. That's silly, because you can't, there's no nuance and there's no real back and forth. If you really want to have an informative educational conversation, go face to face. And here's what's happened when I've had face to face conversations. We get down to the nitty gritty, and either you can back up what you're saying with something that is logical and factual and makes sense, or you cannot. Don't tell me that you just have a feeling. I mean, you could tell me that, but that's not an argument. That's what a child would say. I just got a feeling. Oh, okay. Well, if that works for you, then, go for you. Like, go do you. Go do you, boo. And there are people like that. But again, that's the beauty of living in such a melting pot. You have all different types of people with different types of come from, okay? I don't have to agree with you because you and I are friends. We don't have to agree on everything. I just would like for you to share with me what your come from is, and then I can decide if what you're saying makes sense or not. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, most people are not taught critical thinking. Most people don't do any real definitive research. Most people don't know the laws. Most people don't research all of the different court cases that were rejected, in that first go around in 2020, they haven't gone back and read through those transcripts because they're lazy. It's easy. This is why a lie will go around the world twice before the truth will put on its pants, because lying is easy and buying and perpetuating a lie is easy because it takes no effort to lie. The truth is hard. You got to dig, you got to do research, and you have to, show it. Like, let's see your sources. Let's see how you've lined up your facts, and let's go from there. And then, we can have a conversation, have a healthy debate, from that vantage point. So again, all of us have this opportunity to do the work. But in my world, business, entrepreneurship, and leadership, we take 100% responsibility. Okay, I've never seen someone never take accountability or responsibility for anything. I've never encountered a human being that is that claims to be perfect. It's crazy. That says I'm never wrong. That literally said I've never even had to ask God for forgiveness because I'm that dope. I'm so perfect and so dope. Even I've never had to ask God for forgiveness. I've never heard somebody that wants to be a leader say that about themselves. Like that blew my mind. Like I don't relate to that. I don't understand it. I certainly don't buy it. Anyone that thinks like that is just weird to me, okay? And I'm not a proponent of pathological lying. That's just wrong. If my child lies in our household, there are severe consequences. We made it very clear. I know you all have done this with your kids too. You can do a lot of stuff and you can tell me you did it, take ownership, accountability, responsibility, and we'll talk about the consequences. But there is no consequence that will be more severe than if you lie. That's a big thing in our household. So someone that pathologically lies and literally has been documented to pathologically lie tens of thousands of times, that is not someone that I resonate with. I don't understand it. Like that's not a leader and that's not an entrepreneur. Like we don't do that in business. It's just not the language that my tribe speaks of leadership and entrepreneurialism. Now, am I saying that every leader and entrepreneur is like that? No, of course not. Are there corrupt leaders and entrepreneurs? Yes, of course. Are there people in business that do pathologically lie? Yes, I'm not naive, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about my come from, the people that I know, the people that this message resonates with and it makes sense to, and they agree with me. Like, and again, I haven't said anything about who you should vote for. I've only said you need to vote. That's all I've said. I'm talking about principles. I'm talking about behavior that I find are in alignment that I would support and behavior that I wouldn't support, okay? And I'm guessing that if you've gotten to the end of this video, which we're wrapping it up, that you probably would agree and are in alignment with my message. That these behaviors that I say that I'm not down with, I'm guessing that you probably feel the same way. So I hope you have a fantastic start to your week. I certainly hope that you do get out and vote and encourage other people to vote. I certainly hope that you continue to make a positive impact on your community by the example that you set. One of the things I love, and I have so much respect for the Obamas, okay, Barack and Michelle Obama. First of all, I love their relationship. Like those, see, I pay attention to those things. I mean, have I met them? Yes. Have I sat with them? Yes. Was I really impressed? Of course. Like they're brilliant. They're extremely accomplished. They're super hardworking. They come from nothing. They had to earn it. They had to earn it. And the level of vitriol and racism and just disgusting things that they were bombarded with during their 8 years, twice elected, by the way, 8 years in office, is mind-blowing. If you all knew half the stuff, if you all knew 1/4 of the stuff, you wouldn't believe it because you'd be like, there's no way that there's that kind of hate and vitriol in our country. But again, we're a melting pot. Unfortunately, it's not all going to be, positive and lovey-dovey. But my point is that one of the things I love about the Obamas is their relationship, is their marriage, is their commitment to each other, that they have built this relationship over decades. and how Michelle Obama will talk about, marriage is not perfect. And we have had years where we were not doing well, but we just were committed and we were willing to work through it. I've learned so much about my own relationship as a result of their example. So yeah, are they brilliant? Of course. Were they phenomenal leaders? Are they phenomenal leaders? Yeah, of course. You may not agree with all their come-froms. I certainly didn't agree with some of the things that President Obama did when he was in office, for sure. For sure. But was he presidential? Was he respectful? Did he garner respect? Yes. Did he conduct himself with the highest level of decorum? Yes, of course. So those things matter to me. Character matters to me. When 4-star generals, with the person that holds the highest military office in the United States says, hey, listen, there's a problem here. If you're looking at this person as a possible candidate, there's a problem. When a 4-star general says that, ladies and gentlemen, that person has my undivided attention. Because a 4-star general has been in the trenches. A 4-star general has a career of leadership and excellence that is unquestioned and unmatched. Am I really going to listen to a troll over a 4-star general? No. That's just silly. And I know you all, I'm talking to the choir now. Of course, you agree. I know you know this, right? It's common sense stuff. So if a bunch of people that I was running with and that were supposed to be in my crew, and a good number of them ended up in jail, indicted, or they said, yo, this dude is crazy. This dude got problems. You don't want this dude nowhere near no leadership. And these are people that were supposed to be in my crew. I'm going to take that into consideration. You would do the same thing. Like you all do this when you date. You're like, hey, I want to meet some of your friends. And if the person you're about to date, you find out that their entire circle has either been in jail, indicted, or says, don't mess with that dude, don't mess with that woman, they crazy. You're going to take that into consideration, right? Common sense things. Common sense things. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to encourage you to take in what is happening right now. We only have this opportunity every 4 years. Of course, there are elections in between. I'm not saying you shouldn't, vote in all the elections, of course. But this is such a big moment for us. It's an exciting time. We get a chance to really take a pulse on what's happening throughout these United States. We get a chance to see who's living in their bubbles. Like people live in bubbles. You got to understand that. There are people that live in bubbles, so they only hear one side. They only see one take, and they believe that that's all that there is, which is sad. And it happens on, in every arena, okay? And one thing that I enjoy doing is going in different bubbles. That's why I've been having these face-to-face conversations with people that are on the complete opposite side, philosophically, politically, than I am. But I love having that face-to-face conversation because it humanizes them for me, and I get to be humanized for them too. And guess what? We had conversations. I've had conversations, not just one, conversations. And you know what? We left with civility. We left with respect. Now, again, I have a slightly different come from. I'm an expert with humans and human behavior and how to talk to people. So you could be a KKK member. You could be a Nazi. You could be a white supremacist. I can have a conversation with you and I'm not going to, get emotional. Okay. I'm not saying, that's what these people were. I'm saying that's my expertise. So that helped. Okay. That certainly helped. But I genuinely am very good at listening. That's a skill that I have. And I'm very good at assessing somebody's come from. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it, but I'm very good at assessing it. That has enabled me to have some very significant conversations. And guess what? When we left the conversation, we left with a handshake and a smile. We didn't call each other names. We didn't say you're the enemy within. I wasn't accused of being a socialist or a Marxist or a communist or the devil, right? It's so ridiculous, but that's part of the political theater. We understand that. But it's wrong. It's wrong to do that. And we left agreeing to disagree. And I hope that you could do that too. Get out and vote. Have an awesome and amazing week, because even though things are going to be happening in the White House that are important, it's not as important as what's going to be happening in your house. take care of your house. Be the example. Who do you want to be? What do you stand for? And set that example for the world to see and experience. Be the change that you wish in this world.